What's going on, everybody? It is Tuesday morning, 7:30 a.m. on the East Coast. Don't worry, no bait and switch. Joe is here. Joe is all around us at the moment. He's logging into his StreamYard account. You can join the show as a guest, or you can be a moderator, which he is. So then he can participate in the chat and all of that. So he'll be back. Don't go anywhere. Or maybe he just played a huge trick on me and was like, that's it. After Daytona, I've had enough of you people. No, I see him logging in right now. He's connecting his camera. So yeah, today we're going to cover Joe's first trip to Daytona. Not only was his first trip to Daytona, it was his first trip to any Reptile show. Obviously, we stayed overnight in the Daytona Hilton. So, obviously interacting with the community, first experiences with all of that. And that's what we'll go to. Oh man, Joe took the control. He's like, boom, I'm just going to sign myself in. I was building up the anticipation. So
yeah. So I did this once before. So you have to log in to see into the studio to see all of the comments. And I really enjoy looking at the comments. So, but I did this once before. And it was our first episode, and it was almost the exact same thing. It was like right before we started, and I was like, I'm not logged in.
Yeah, he's like, you're like, I'm out of here. I was like, well, you know what? I got a time schedule to keep, and on we go. Yeah. So good morning. That's Pedro, our man in Moscow. Man, how are you today? I hope that you're well. We got questions for you, Pedro. We're going to get to some other stuff first, but actually we have some geopolitical international politics questions to ask.
Interesting.
I'm quite interested as a history major, but hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Mario, you're joining the show, man, on the early morning. I love it. Mario's a local breeder here in Jacksonville. Really cool dude. I think we've either traded for two snakes with each other, or he bought one and then we traded another. Anyhow, he's got cool stuff, and he's been a good colleague here in town. So thanks for joining the show this morning. Sarah, Shannon, how you doing? Jen, good morning. Other Jen. And good morning, Strictly Strange. I didn't mean anything by your there was this expression, like maybe when I was in college, something about never mind. It had nothing to do with what you thought. I didn't mean to be offensive. I'm glad to have you here. Let's not even go down that rabbit hole. We're good. All right, Joe, what in the world was, you got to give us the man on the street report from Daytona. You've had a few days to reflect, and I think you're 72 hours removed. What was it? You walk in blindly to
quite an experience. So my initial thought was, well, first of all, I was there. I got there. I had some things to do a Saturday morning, so I got there in the afternoon, and I had a few hours, of course, I think reptiles are neat, which I think it really is an underwhelming statement for this community, just to say, I think they're neat. It was
that's
cool.
Like when a girl is like, do you like me? And you're like, I think you're neat.
So I don't
not quite fulfilling,
So I don't want to offend anybody by saying, oh, I think they're neat. But my appreciation, first of all, so my appreciation for reptiles grew from the experience. I think the thing that I was most interested in is the people. I mean, the people were friendly, they were welcoming, even, you know, like even you know, people have booths there and they want to sell their reptiles. But I didn't feel like it was a sales show. Like I've been to conventions where it's just like selling.
Yeah, and like the conventions that have like almost like the carnival barker feel. Like you feel like
come and get your piebald or whatever.
Right.
It wasn't like that. It was very welcoming. It was very, you know, hey, can we help you? You know, and I'm sure I looked like I didn't know what the hell was going on when I came up to a booth, and just super nice, friendly people, and very patient as well, which made me think about then the people who patronize and the people that that you sell to. And it made me wonder, like, and I think we asked this question, but that's a question that I had when I was there. Like, as a seller, do you vet the people that you that buy your animals?
Oh yeah,
and what is that vetting process? So that was my first question. Experiencing the convention itself.
Yeah. Well, so a couple thoughts. One of the things I love, and I don't know if you saw this or felt this or not, I love the whole spectrum of people. Like I've joked before that, like, although quite seriously, really, like, and this is using many stereotypes of which I include myself too, but like you're gonna have the gun toting, you know, stereotype and Southerner hanging out with the two black lesbians right at the same table, having a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I say, forgive all my stereotypes. I'm making a point that the spectrum is massive and we're there together having a good time, which I love and I adore. That's probably my favorite thing that I love about this community. Well, so, and then a couple other thoughts, like, I've been at the National Food Show is all of these purveyors, again, like carnival barker, like, hey, you got to see this. And I'm not a woman and I'm certainly not an attractive woman, but it feels like in my mind, like, again, a stereotype of a woman walking through a construction site, like, oh geez, for Pete's sake, like, just let me look around at what's going on, you know, at other conventions. Whereas this one, yeah, I think it's a lot more of like, hey, come on up, hey, come hang out. I think most ball python breeders at least embrace the idea that, you know, there's probably at a show like that, there's probably 5 to 10 people that have unique enough animals to stand out on their own that people are like, okay, I'm just going there to buy because they have XYZ combo. The rest of us are building relationships and we're selling everything that was on my table. You could find at 20 different tables in the place. So
okay.
Not, you know, the differentiation comes down. The easy differentiation is price, but that's just a straight race to the bottom. So you don't want to do that. So then it's interacting. It's relationship building. It's customer service. It's repeat service and that kind of thing. So a lot of the probably patience and interaction that you felt when people were like, hey, welcome. What are you looking for? How's it going? What do you do? Like, we're figuring out how to connect with you. We're figuring out how we're going to build that community and that relationship. So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah. But, I mean, because I think about,
go ahead.
Yeah. I think about my own business, right? Accounting. And there's a whole bunch of different accounting firms that people can go to in the area. But the most important thing is building a relationship with the client. And so we're I mean, it's kind of hokey, but we're not in the numbers business. We're in the relationship business. that's what we say. And that's why our clients love us and keep coming back. So
it's probably even, it's probably even more so than ball pythons, because honestly, like, you're going to laugh at what I'm about to say, or you're going to roll your eyes at what I'm going to say. They're not inventing new math. It's not like you have proprietary math that somebody else doesn't have. So, right. But we are inventing new ball pythons. So in that way, there's a proprietary aspect to it where we can go, I got something literally nobody else has.
Yeah.
Not in accounting. Now, you could have creative ways to apply the math, but that tends to land people in jail. So yeah, it's probably even more so on your end than what I'm talking about on my end. So yeah, exactly. That's,
I think the other thing that struck me was how large it was. It's huge.
I have written on my paper, did I build it up too much, or was it that massive and overwhelming?
No. So, and I think part of this is my own ego as well in this thought, as we've now been doing this. This is our 5th show.
Yeah.
Fifth, 6th. I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of people, a lot of the podcasts, they'll like every thumbnail, it's like episode number, whatever. And I'm like, if you're up above like 90, that sounds good. But when it's like 7, they're like, that's almost like a reason for people not to watch. They're like, only 7. Yeah, I'm not tuning in. So I don't know. It's been a while.
I think it's like 6, 7, or I don't know. So, and I'm getting to know the people in the chat, and I feel like I'm like connected. My face is there, and then we have like a few hundred views when you put it on YouTube.
Right.
So part of it was, I wonder if I go there and I'm just walking around, if anybody's going to go, hey, it's Joe.
Right.
So I'm kind of like, I wonder if that will happen. And it didn't, because it's so huge and so big that there's a lot of other things that are going on.
You didn't get your star on the Daytona Walk of Fame hadn't quite set in concrete.
I mean, it wasn't like I thought I'd walk in and there'd be throngs of people going, hey, it's the guy that doesn't know anything. But I didn't know if that would, if like anybody would recognize. Now later, I met some folks in person who have been watching the show. And they were, that was really cool, because when I walked in, I was like, this is way too large for anybody to even like, know anything about me. Right. So, but when I did meet people, like shout out to Shannon, and shout out to Chris, they were like, oh, it's Joe.
It's Joe. Here he is.
So and Sarah and Josh, and it was great to meet, and they had seen the show, and they had watched the show. So I thought that was really nice, and it was really cool to meet some people in person from the chat that I've gotten to know, even though you all have handles that may not be associated with your name.
I was going to ask, so I have 2 disconnects. One, like, I've had that is sort of a pendulum swing of like, okay, will people recognize me, and what do I do if they do? And then, like you say, then you go and you're like, no, that wasn't a problem. But so then the other end of the pendulum is, you wonder if you're just like yelling into the abyss, and like Adam and Joe are just playing podcasts in our heads for our own, like, hey, you want to pretend podcast again tomorrow? So like having an actual audience does help. Like, we see the metrics, but who knows? Maybe YouTube's just like, nah, I don't think these guys are excited enough. Let's give them a few more views. Let's pump up their views so they'll come back next week. Right? Yeah, we'll throw them a bone in the old metrics endorphins, right?
And then when I did meet people who knew the show and liked what we're trying to do here, they were like super complimentary too. You know, they were like, I really think this is a good idea and you should continue. So they were really encouraging. And that was really cool too. And I doubt that that's an anomaly in the community. Is like when somebody tries to do something new, you don't have a lot of haters, I don't think, in the community going, no, don't do that.
You know
what I don't know.
No, oh yeah, this space thrives on, like, I joked with who did I joke with? I joked with I make the joke all the time. I want to say it was maybe even Jeremy from Snakes from the Memories, but like the joke was somebody else was going to start a podcast or start theirs back up, and then we could have podcast beef and we would have like slap fights, because that was going all the way back to the beginning. That was one of the spaces that I saw where I could say on my Tuesday night show, hey, what if I made a show that just stayed on the topic of snakes and there was no drama, and it wasn't and this is not a shot at anybody. I have well, the drama part's a little bit of a shot at people, but I don't care. I don't interact with them. There are very good people that are drama free, but part of their shtick is they have a show or a channel where it's like snake and bake, or bacon with snakes, or it's a plant culture based show, and that's not me either. And again, no shame or what do the kids call it, shade towards those folks, because they're great. They're actually good buddies, but I thought that there was a space where we could have sort of a professional focused mindset, still have fun and be passionate about what we're talking about without the drama, without the clickbait, without turning it into a Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair promo against each other. Cause like, what are you going to do? You're going to fight each other on the internet? Like, this isn't going to, stop it, man. These guys, they're playing us. I'm guaranteeing that somebody said something to make somebody else mad, and somewhere along the way it clicked. They're both like, we can make money on this. Let's just keep this going. And,
I mean, it is. Does everybody know about your?
Everybody can. I guarantee you, everybody in the audience can at least formulate a story in their mind of some people in our community that Adam might be talking about. Absolutely, okay. Every one of them. They might not know like the specifics, but yeah, absolutely.
But my question is, does everybody know about your enthusiasm, your other enthusiasm for professional wrestling?
Oh, maybe. I don't hide it. I don't make it a centerpiece, but yeah. I could wax poetically on
which, I mean, you just brought up Hogan Macho Man? Yeah, one of the greatest rivalries, alliances of all times, right?
They were foes, and then they were part of the Twin Towers kind of alliance, and then Miss Elizabeth too back in the day. It was the Powers,
Look out! I still remember the handshake. We're getting off topic. I still remember the handshake, their first handshake, when Hogan saved Macho Man from who? Honky Tonk, right?
Anyway, yeah, somebody, yeah, exactly, right, yeah.
The point is,
I loved it, man.
The point is, that's basically what those folks are doing. They're going, oh, let's create a beef with each other, because that's attractive to people to get to stage that kind of thing.
Except they've widely acknowledged that it's scripted and staged. Whereas this other world isn't, and it's just like, see, Jeremy's into it. So yeah, AEW Wembley Stadium, Adam, you're watching. No, there's only so much I could follow, man, and to be honest, I'm not an AEW guy. I know the true purists roll their eyes, but Vince is still the standard. I will be at WrestleMania in Philly in April, WrestleMania 40. I'll be there. I think Joe, to make a pun, Joe decided to tap out of it once we started running some numbers. He was like, I don't think I'm going to go. This is fun, but I don't think I'm going to go.
I loved it when I was a kid. I think we were on our back porch a while back, and we were like, oh yes, let's go to Philly because I'm from that area, or kind of from that area. Let's go to Philly. That'd be so great. See,
Right.
And then you said, oh, it's
Yeah,
gonna be this amount, and I thought,
I think
Riley's going to
yeah.
college. I gotta.
I think they'll come down, but currently on like the cheap seats on the low end are still coming in at like 300 a day, and it's a two-day event. So, yeah, that's one of my. I've been, man. All right, so since we're down this rabbit hole, I've been to a WrestleMania in 2008. That was Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair retirement match, one of the great matches of all time. I got to see it live, fantastic. Fast forward to 2006, WrestleMania in New Orleans. I had tickets in my hand, and a different dark time in my life, but suddenly I was jobless and very terrified, and flying to New Orleans, blowing a whole bunch of money wasn't in the cards. So I actually just surrendered the tickets. I gave them back to my buddy Brian, and he's like, well, if you're not going, I'm not going. He goes, half the reason I go is because you're excited about it. That ticket is still stuck on my wall in like my room, unused. WrestleMania in New Orleans, 2016, not 2008. Then 2020, okay, I'm turning 40, WrestleMania Tampa. I'm in, got tickets. Oh, yeah. We're going. Some friends were going to fly in. Even if they didn't go to WrestleMania, we were going to all hang out in Tampa, do a big time. You could go to WrestleMania and not go. And a little pandemic struck. So I have another unused ticket from, so I have two unused tickets from WrestleMania, one used ticket. So I intend to even the odds this year.
I don't like this. Yeah, I don't like this. So like, what's going to happen to either you or the world this coming year to prevent you from going to Philadelphia? I'm scared. You're scared.
And the bright news in 2025, it's slated to be in Minneapolis. So I might just do two in a row. We'll have to see how it shakes out. So I wanted to, let's swing it back to Daytona. Jeremy is joking about, we fight at Tinley, US Arc Money Time. So Tinley's the next show in Chicago. Jeremy, you and I could cut like promos on each other, because I think the beef actually started in Daytona. You were very vicious towards me. I had electrodes hooked up to me for my back that was causing me pain. Joe, do you want to narrate through this story? Because I think you got to witness it. I think
I don't. So I was engaged in a conversation. And I just heard the shrieking. So
was it like a shriek? Was it like a guttural yell? It
wasn't a shriek. I guess shriek is the wrong word, but it was a yell in a way. I thought, Adam has the USR guitar and he's starting a punk rendition of some it was just terrible.
So
I thought, what's wrong? What's happened?
So for people watching, and Jeremy, you have nothing to be sorry about. We were all right. So my back has still been screwed up, and the doctor prescribed me some muscle relaxers and anti-inflammatory. But the problem is those muscle relaxers mess with my head, and in a semi-responsible way, I don't care to mix any medicine with any alcohol. And not that I wanted to just get, blitzed out of my mind, but I wanted to have some drinks. It was fun. We're not driving anywhere. It's good camaraderie. It fits. So we're at the USR auction. We're feeling good. I had purposely stayed away from liquor and was just sticking with beer and wine for the evening. But you have enough beer and wine, you can get where you're going. And I've got these electrodes hanging off my back, and you can ramp it up or ramp it down depending on how much you want it to kind of go to. For reference, I would say that the top end, we'll call it 25, and I keep it set to about a 2. So I was showing this little device to Jeremy, and then because I'm all hyped up, like somebody actually asked me the next morning, they're like, did you calm down last night? Like, so I was excited. I'm having a good time. I'm socially in my element. I got a good buzz. I'm happy. The guitar just sold for a ton of money. Great things are going on. And I get distracted. And meanwhile, Jeremy just jams the plus button and ramps the thing. I think he probably only got it to 8 or 9. And I thought I was going to fall over. Like I just was flailing my arms trying to slap the thing out of his hands.
And who was standing there? Oh, I think it was Chris, right? Chris was standing there.
Chris was there. Sarah was there. Jeremy.
I realized it wasn't a big deal when I looked over and I saw Chris doubled over, laughing hysterically.
They're like, torture for Adam? Primo, let's do that. If only we had a video on it. Oh man, it would have been a reel for the ages, because like, it's one thing when it was very Jackass-ish, right? Like it was sort of a scene from that movie or that series, but those guys know it's coming. I wasn't flexed.
Weren't prepared.
Go more. It was just, got me good. So it was good. And in all fairness to Jeremy, I put that thing in his hands. I was like, let's see what I could take. And then I got distracted. Meanwhile, Jeremy was like, oh, we're going to find out what you can take, man.
Yeah, I think that was, I mean, one of the highlights was just meeting everybody. So after it was all over, we stayed over at the Hilton, and that's when I met. I don't know if I officially met Jeremy, but he was there, and then Sarah and Josh were there. I love talking to them. And another thing about this whole thing was just like getting to know folks and asking them questions, and just the great reasons why. Again, going back to the first conversation that we had on this show is, why do you do this? And there's just such great reasons. I think of we went to dinner. I spoke with Shannon for a while. And just hearing that was first of all, that was a terrific dinner. It was fantastic. We wanted to get up to the auction, but I think our conversation was so great that we went until about 8:30, and then we eventually got up to the auction, which another fantastic spectacle. It was awesome.
Overwhelming spectacle, right? Like, yeah. It was huge, man.
Yes, this thing right here, that the guitar that we discussed. And we had Daniel on from US Arc Florida.
That's correct. Yeah.
And that guitar at the auction, if you don't know, first went for $6,000.
Yeah.
Then it was donated back, and it went for another $4,000. So that was incredible to me. So also, I have in my mind what money is exchanging here, and who's moving the money around most, that's one of the things that I have questions about.
Well, and that puts into perspective. Okay. So hang on. The US Arc auction, this is worth highlighting. I talked a little bit on Tuesday night about it. The US Arc auction raised right at $120,000 that night was the total number. Incredible, right?
Yeah.
Normally in the past, they've split it between US Arc Florida, US Arc National. There's a Turtle Conservancy group. And then this is my understanding. This is hearsay. If I'm factually wrong, my apologies. Don't sue me, anybody. My understanding was that the show promoter used to take a cut as well. Mm-hmm. He says, hey, I give you the stage. I give you the vehicle to do it. You got to pay the man. Again, my understanding on very, very good grounds, a very, very good source this year said they got together immediately after when they realized how much money was made, and they looked at the current legislation coming out of Florida, the current lawsuit status. They gave all of that money to US Arc Florida. So $120,000 going to US Arc Florida. Yeah, Phil, you're right. Yeah, follow the money. It's like on YouTube on here, if you give a super chat or whatever the monetized thing is, YouTube takes 40% of it. So I have 60% of what you gave me more than I had. So that's good. But I feel unfulfilled because I got to pay YouTube, so the vehicle's there. And that's not a shot at Wayne. That's just how business goes. I get it. But anyway, they gave all the money to US Arc. The other thing that I like to think, though, is you're right. That money has to flow from somewhere. And I take that as an indication of how strongly the market and the industry still is.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's relative, right? If you sell a $25,000 snake that day, which there were some, you might throw around $5 or $6 grand for a good cause to keep your industry going.
Yeah.
I did not sell any $25,000 snakes, and therefore I did not donate 25,000 or any thousands of dollars.
You just had a good steak dinner.
I had a great steak dinner. Yeah. That was very good. The other thing that I've heard, I don't know, we'll see if it comes to fruition. So first, Troy, it was cool. It's cool to hang out in person and meet Troy in person. He's been on the show, but I hadn't met Troy in person. Balls and Strikes Pythons. All credit to Jeremy Bod at Bod's Exotic Reptiles. Jeremy cooked up this whole scheme, saw it through, getting it to people. And I talked to Jeremy Bod yesterday and told him such, because I was really, really happy for him. He put a lot of effort into that, and to see it come to life, because last year it gained money, but it wasn't massive. And, true to Jeremy's style, he was just this humble dude. He was like, well, when I had anything to do with it, it didn't raise that much. It took Eugene donating it back. It took Daniel and Adam promoting it, and you guys made it happen this year. And I was like, I don't think that's true, Jeremy. The thing got the money. So anyway, but Joe, you'll get a kick out of this, and this is sort of a good indicator too. So the first guy that bought it, signed it, donated it back.
Oh, okay.
The second guy that bought it, signed it. It's in his office on the wall right now as we speak, or going up on the wall. But at the October show, the next show of Daytona caliber, which is at Tinley Park, just outside of Chicago, my understanding is the word on the street is he's already spoken about redonating that again. So it's going to turn into this usually when things go viral, we're talking about, social media and clicks. This is a tangible viral thing. It's going to turn into people are going to sign it and redonate it until it's full. So hopefully in, 4, 5, 8 years, we'll have to make another guitar and get this whole thing started again, because that one will fill up, and
right.
and somebody will buy that one and retire it and hang it, or heck, maybe that'll be the year I'll make enough and I'll buy it and retire it and have it after it's made its journey, man. I don't know. It's cool that it's this inanimate object that now has life, and
that's
not even
really, that's a cool way to put it. Yeah. That's really a cool way to put it. I think Daniel did a really good job too. He played and he sang, and it raised the the interest in it and everything. I thought it was great. When you mentioned Jeremy Bod, the other thing that, so when I met Jeremy Bod, he said, I guess he's seen the show, and he said, why are you so big? Which wasn't the only comment about how large I am. which is a big frame. You're not like you're not. I mean, you ran marathons and stuff, man. Like you're a fit dude. But I thought it was interesting because, I mean, that's how, with the pandemic, you're on Zoom, and I thought about how online the community is, and then I thought as well, I wonder if that's a lot of the energy that's in the room, is that there is a lot of online, meeting of people and things like that, or just calling and, sending things and everything. I think that part of the energy of being at these shows is hey, I know you, but I've never met you before. And you're much larger than I thought you would be.
So on the flip side of that, don't feel too bad. The first time I ever met Chris from BNS Reptilia, he was, I don't know if he was on a family vacation or what he was doing, but one way or another, he ended up in St. Augustine, and we went and had dinner. And the first thing he says to me when he sees me, he goes, "Damn, I guess the camera really does add 10 pounds. Look at you. Why don't you eat a cheeseburger or something?" Which was like the complete opposite. Like
Right.
I know that people only see my head and no frame of reference otherwise, but yeah, I go about 134 pounds sopping wet, so I've accepted this. This is who I am. But yeah, he was so funny.
Wait, you said 130 pounds?
135. Yeah.
135.
Yeah. If I'm real lazy for a couple months, maybe 140.
Yeah. I mean, I run 260. So, so there's a little bit of a difference.
You the chicken, I'm the chicken hawk, Foghorn. That's you, man.
I think that's 2 U's. 2 U's.
To me. Yeah. That's a lot. I mean, that's an impressive way to describe yourself, because I think I'm a pretty solid person. So, I mean,
I thought the silent auction was really cool. All of the donations from the silent auction were great. It was cool to see how many people wanted to give to USARK, and it made me realize how important that organization is to the community as well. So
there's a terrible threat, and I don't think I'm over exaggerating, just from a political standpoint. Something that polls very well are things that terrify people.
Mm-hmm.
What's a great thing? Okay, real issues that really should be addressed. They're tough to poll. The nuances are hard to understand. It's hard to get, what's the value of a tax, or what's the value of it not being taxed, and we produce the revenue a different way. That's really what sort of legislation should look like. But it's much easier to go, these terrifying devil serpents are invading us. Mm-hmm. Everybody's for that, right? Let's get rid of them. It's crazy, man. And I've had a good time on the show. I don't want to turn it into that lecture, but there is that reality, and it just becomes this easy thing. Marco Rubio every year reintroduces the same legislation that we got to spend 6 figures in lawyer fees to fight every year to show them that it's dumb. It was just defeated a year ago. He reintroduced the exact same legislation again this year on the Lacey Act amendments. And I know, Joe, you're like, Adam's on a rant. What's he talking about? But talking to the audience, these Lacey Act amendments are going to affect interstate commerce, and it's why USARK Florida is so important, because this is the forefront. And anyway, there we go. I've made my piece. Donate to USARK if you can. Be a USARK member. It doesn't cost much.
I was impressed, and I did stop by the FWC table, and I spoke with some people there, and I think they're trying. I think what we've talked about here is that they might be trying to make some movements to have a better relationship, but they're usually there at Daytona, correct?
Yeah, they're I'm in it. Okay, so you went to the FWC booth. What was the conversation? Were you just like, "Hey, I'm here to understand all that"? What was I didn't know that you talked to them. That's cool.
Yeah, I went up and I said, I'm new to this, and I said, "Are you usually here?" I had just started watching this show called, and maybe this is not a good show for you all. And that's another question that I had. I started watching the show called Killing It because I like Craig Robinson. It's about Burmese pythons. I mean, the first season.
Wait, is it on like Netflix or whatever?
It's on like Apple or something. And
okay. All right.
I think he's funny. So I started to watch this, and I had watched like an episode or two. So, and it's about, the move to rid Florida of Burmese pythons.
Okay.
So I had an interest in talking to FWC about that, but I didn't really get into that. I went up and I started to talk about their relationship with this community. And I said, "How has your day been?" And he said, "It's been good." And I said, "Has it been contentious?" And he said, "Yeah, it's been contentious, but this is one of our this is one of our main events that we need to come to make sure that there's a working relationship with this community. Now, that's a representative of the FWC. What FWC does, we've talked about some of the things that they've done in the past, but he says we come here every year and we want to have a presence here every year, and we want to be forward facing for reptile enthusiasts. So I thought it was an interesting question. I thought it was an interesting conversation.
I think it's cool that you sought them out, and just from a curiosity and understanding standpoint. And I know that's the angle that you go at, that, you know, you seek to understand, which is one of the things I love about you personally, but also doing the show with you. So my feelings on FWC are very conflicted, because as a philosophy, as a concept, as an entity, I think it's a sham. I'll call it what I think it is. They're governed by handpicked, placed, appointed people. They don't have to go through the legislative process. They dictate laws. From a conservation standpoint, 5 of the 7 people that are appointed and on this board are property developers, and they're telling me that they're leading the conservation efforts. I can. It's weird. I have a twitch in one of my fingers that just wants to jump up right now. And so I think it's hypocritical. I don't believe in it. I think it's, in that way, I think it's a sham. To a person of the people that I've interacted with from FWC, has been very, very positive. That's what I figured. That's what I figured. Like, this conversation was friendly. It was nice. He was open to my questions. But I figured, there's this person that is a representative saying that they're a representative of this organization, and then there's the organization itself. You know? Yeah. Or the institution. Organization is not the right word, but yeah, you know, Lindsay, we do have to, and that was Daniel's point of, here's the fact of the matter. They're in our game. They're going to be in our game. We can't do anything about that. But what we can do is figure out how to bridge that gap, how to make the most of the circumstance, because it's not going to go away. We could pretend that it needs to be, you know, we could fight that fight, and maybe it takes somebody to fight that fight to disband it, but it's not going to. And the current political climate, it's not going to. With our current leadership, our current governor, it's not going to. So we have to figure out how to work within the system that we do have. One moment, my son and wife are at an endodontist. I'm going to mute this real fast. Joe, take over for just a second, please.
Okay. Oh, this is very scary. So I see some other, incredibly nice to us that spoke to have your paperwork in order. I think they're trying to mend fences. I think that's the impression that I get. And it's also a lot of, when I mention this, it's also a lot of what people in the reptile community are saying about FWC. I don't want to harp on that too much, but the other thing that I thought was interesting is 2 other things. So one thing is, and we're going on to a different topic now.
Yeah, we'll circle back, because there was two interactions with FWC I wanted to talk about. But go ahead. We got 15.
No, you go.
All right. So we got about 15 minutes left till our home stretch of getting on to our work days. So 2 interactions with FWC, and then Joe, you take it home, man. So the 2 interactions were, here's an example. In my opinion, biased as a ball python breeder in Florida, to vend and sell in Florida, you have to have what's called a Class 3 license from FWC. And so you go through that process and you get it. And on the one hand, it's not complicated, and nearly anybody can get this, but it's a huge hassle. It's slow. Their online interface sucks. Up until 8 months ago, you still had to mail a paper check and mail a paper handwritten application, because that's how modern their systems are. Okay. And that's all true. That's factual. They can take it however they want. That's factual. When I first got my license, they sent me a license for birds. Nowhere did I check a box or write the word birds. I wrote ball pythons. I sent them an inventory list of what I have, which is what you have to do. And here we go. FWC gets the clicks and the interactions up. Look at the comments. I can't even keep up with them. So I give you all that for context. If you vend from out of state, you still have to get an FWC class 3 license to come vend in Florida. It's a hassle. It's not easy. And the Daytona show, what I found more than any other show I've ever vended at, collects your license, and you have to bring a show inventory with you to the show before they will give you your access to your table, and they keep a copy of it, and they turn all of that into FWC. So other shows, you're on your own. Daytona screens you ahead of time. You don't get into Daytona unless they've vetted you the day of, and that you have all your paperwork in order. So these people got their license, they turned it into Daytona, they were given the blessing of Daytona, and then FWC goes to their table and says, oh, you're from out of state? Where's your separate permit to import non-native species into Florida?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, we got our license. Nobody said anything about it. Right on the license, you see it says we're from Jersey, or you see it says we're from Indiana. The people were trying to do the right thing. I've never heard of this separate permit to import. I talked to, I'll just say a USARC representative so that I make sure I'm not defaming or posting anybody in the wrong light. They said this law has been on the books since 2016. Nobody's ever, it's not been enforced. We don't know about it. It's not on the application process. And they didn't lie about where they were coming from. They're trying to do well. Long story short, they shut down and kicked out 10 vendors from the show on these premises. So are we working in good faith? Are we working to build good relationships? They were doing it the right way, and they didn't get a fine. They didn't say, hey, let's get you in order right now. You didn't bring venomous. You didn't bring, these were ball python breeders. You didn't bring something that was outlawed. You didn't bring reticulated pythons or Burmese pythons or green iguanas. Everything that's legal was legal. They had their license. Boom. Didn't matter. Shut down. You spent thousands of dollars to come from the Northeast. Too bad. Get out.
Yeah.
That's a bad look. The other thing, if there was this bridge building going on, that's where you go, hey guys, there's got to be a penalty. You didn't follow the law. However, here's what I'd like to see you do. Here's how we can help you get in compliance. We know this is your Super Bowl. Let's figure this out. Now, none of that. Yeah. Get out, pack up, or we're going to confiscate your animals.
Yeah. That doesn't sound good.
No. And good. That's a biased light. That's a biased situation I'm putting it in. I'm sure they would have a different take on it. The other part I thought was funny is they have undercover agents that work the room, and I know one of them. Yeah, I know what he looks like, and I've met him before because it was a good interaction. I remember, and like my job in my career is remembering faces and remembering what people have done. And he comes up to my table and he's bopping around. I'm just window shopping, and I was like, "Everybody behaving themselves today? You need any paperwork?" And he looked straight at me. And he didn't say a word and just walked off. But I said it loud. I made sure like the people, like I looked around and I was like, "Do you need any paperwork?" Like alerting the people next to me. And like he just walked to the other end of the room.
You're a bit of a troublemaker, huh?
I'll poke. Yeah, I'll poke the bear a little bit. Like, but like I say, it just didn't feel healthy. That's all. So there's the long-winded two sides of my conflicted relationship with FWC. Now, to FWC's side, perhaps Troy says he knew or heard of vendors that falsified their paperwork that were removed. Look, I am a believer that you got to work within the system to change it. So yeah, if you're falsifying your paperwork or you're trying to sneak illegal animals, that's a weird saying. Should there even be illegal animals? But if you're actively undermining the law or working against it, I can't help you. actively trying to do the right thing, then I would like a little bit of a hand reached out in a perfect situation.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. So just moving away from that, I do there was the event was really happy. That's what I think of. Like I think of the happiness that this brings all of the people who were there. And that's exemplified, I think, with Shannon, our interaction with Shannon. And Shannon remind me of your brand. I can't remember the brand. It's
my brand, Proper Royals.
No.
Green
Shannon's
Dragon
brand.
Brokers.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. He was so happy. I think it was his first time we spent some time with him. He was so happy. It was just exemplified. And then everybody at the auction was just happy. And I mean,
feeling no pain, right?
Good days. They all had good days there. It was just so energetic, and I just loved being around. And the other thing too was like I went to. You could talk to anybody, right? But in the community, it's funny, like there are certain celebrities as well that everybody seems to know. And just because this is my first event, I had no qualms about talking to anybody or shaking hands or introducing myself. Whereas there were other people who were like, hey, what were you doing talking to so-and-so? And I'm I don't know.
It struck me. So late night, auction has ended. We go down and we go out to, it wasn't even a patio bar, just a patio place to hang out. Yeah. And it struck me out there because I look around and like I could name the players and most people in the audience would be like, wow, that is a powerhouse room. Like, you know, it really,
it wasn't like a VIP event or anything. Everybody's just hanging out,
just hanging out.
And actually, at the end of the auction, when we were kind of leaving the auction room, I was the one who said, hey, is there a hotel bar, Adam? And you were like, maybe we should just go. And it took you maybe 5 seconds and you were like, no, we can go to the hotel bar.
Yeah, we're going to the hotel bar. That scene. So I had this moment once, and I've sought it out a couple times since. And I know that you guys are going to be like, what is that I'm talking about? There's a bar on the Sunset Strip that's really iconic, but a lot of people don't know it. And it's called the Rainbow Bar and Grill. And it sounds like this like happy-go-lucky Ruby Tuesday kind of restaurant. The Rainbow Bar and Grill, right? The Rainbow is the like seediest, grittiest, incredible historic bar. And in my other days, I've been known, you know, when I've had plenty to drink, I could be a drinking smoker kind of thing. So I'm out back, I'm in this alley from this bar smoking, and there's like 8 guys around me, and I start listening, and like one of them's on a tour with, you know, pick your 80s metal band, and another one, they just finished up their set across the street at the Whiskey A Go-Go. And I start looking around and I'm like, these are all the guys, right? Like there's the Alice Coopers or the Mick Jaggers. And then these are the guys that are like their bass player or their drummer. And in 77, they were playing, you know, Budokan with Cheap Trick or whatever. And they're like, what world did I just slip into? And that's where they go to just hang out and be themselves. And that's what that scene was like at out on the patio. And Joe, I think you can like get your head around that, but it was cool to watch because I'm like, Joe has no idea. He's just hey, what's up, guys? Who needs a drink? What are you doing tonight? You know, kind of thing. Whereas like if you were super snake geek, you would have been like, okay, that's so-and-so. I'll leave them their space because everybody probably bothers them, you know, and like that. So like that bar, the Rainbow, when I walked in, Lemmy from Motorhead, that's where he hung out. That's where he plays Mrs. Pac-Man. And Lemmy was at the end of the bar, and I went to order a drink, and the bartender, she comes to me, she goes, don't speak to Lemmy, before I could even order. And I was like, okay. And she's like, I'm serious. I'll throw you out if you bother Lemmy. She's like, okay, I'll have a bourbon and ginger. She looks at me. She's like, I said, okay, I will. She gave me my drink. So you just had to leave Lemmy alone. He was over there. And then, you know, just for everybody to understand the scene, after hanging out there for the evening and going through the whole scene, I leave. And at the very first booth having dinner is Ron Jeremy.
At the Rainbow.
At the Rainbow, yeah. Yeah. And Lemmy has since died. They have a statue of Lemmy, but there's one booth in the corner with a velvet rope in front of it that's never available. That's Slash's booth. He buys it the whole year he pays for that booth every night, whether he's on tour. That's his booth. You can't go to that booth. So it's a great place. But that's like what that patio scene reminded me of just like all these people hanging out in their own element and Joe just strolling
completely not exclusive at all. Just very inclusive, very friendly, just awesome. Great time. So I think that's the last thing that I think I walked away with is how organized it was. I thought it was a really well organized convention, but also even this conversation highlights all of the organization that goes into being a vendor there, you know, all of the licensing, and it's not, so when you think about, oh, this person deals in ball pythons, the outsider to the community would go, that's weird, you know, but it's a business and you've got to be organized and you've got to be smart about it, which is everything that I've met in everybody there was, they're trying to be organized, they're trying to be smart, and it's really, really difficult to do that, to start any business. But then to start a business that's your passion, that you love to do, I just thought I was very impressed by the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it gives Shannon, be careful Googling, okay? Just heads up. Fair warning. No, I think it gives a scope of, hey, this is a little bit different than just like some weird people in a basement or a garage breeding some snakes for kicks. Like the scope of and scale of that show, of what it was attracting, of the money that was flying around. It is an industry. It is important. These are people's lives. It is it's an industry. It's a commercial endeavor with a whole lot of upside and opportunity. And I had a good question for Daniel. We tried to do the live from the lobby, which didn't play out very well. My apologies, everybody. We were up against some internet technical issues, and we were also up against some house music blaring into our microphones issues that just weren't going to work. So, but I talked to Daniel. I said, hey, do we ever invite these politicians to, I mean, would it be worthwhile to spend $1,500 or $2,000 to do an all expenses trip for one of these local politicians to see their constituents and and the people that they represent in this commercial setting, to understand what Joe saw as, holy cow, there's a ton of people. Holy cow, it's organized. Holy smokes, look at the money flying around. What if a politician wanted those folks to be donors? There's a lot there, you know? So
sure.
Anyway, that's probably a pipe dream, but that was my thought, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that could be a way to go for sure. But I mean, there's so much. I have like 3 other things that I wanted to talk about. Well, we're bumping up against it, but
it's your call, man.
Yeah, we should wrap it up, but maybe we can revisit a few of them. But we said that we were going to talk to Pedro about his the word on the street.
Oh, yeah. Is Pedro Lorga? So Pedro is from Portugal, but he lives in Moscow. And last night before I went to bed,
Bad. Come on, guys.
All right. Yeah, I suppose he is a snake guy. He's known in certain circles. Not Pedro. We're not talking about. So Pedro is a Portuguese. I would call him a gentleman that lives in Moscow, and I have a particular interest in world politics and history. And I went to bed with the updates that, mysteriously enough, the plane with Prigozhin, it crashed. Tough stuff happened last night. And I was wondering what the scene in Moscow was now that Prigozhin is presumed dead, or presented to be dead anyway. But I don't know if Pedro's still in. So anyhow, get in touch with me, Pedro. We could catch up next week on that topic. Joe, take us home, man. I know that we're up against the time.
Yeah, even some of these comments. Sorry, Hi Viz. I can't remember the name. Hi Viz.
That's Jennifer.
Jennifer, you're always really great in the comments. I didn't see. I saw so many booths that day. I wouldn't be able to place all of them. I actually went to Adam and I said, what booth should I see? And then he rattled off a few of them, and I was like, I think I saw those, and I can't keep them all straight in my head, but I'll get better at this, I think. But anyway, looks like all right, all good, mate. I had nothing to do with it from Pedro.
Okay, good. Yeah, walk to walk, Pedro. Just give me a wink if you got some inside info, man. Yeah. Okay. So, but it's public news there in Moscow. I mean, is it being reported as such in Moscow? Because it's definitely world news here. But yeah. Joe, take us home, man. I know we got to hit the road.
I just want to say, I've been gratitude is the word that I think of when I think of doing this podcast. And then I felt it even more over this past weekend in Daytona. So thanks everybody for indulging my curiosities.
It brings me joy. It was a blast.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll catch you up next week, right?